landing on Cryptex land. Get off the ship and take a walk. Take any guitar and start your own band. Here you can sing, here you can talk, here you can say whatever you want. Here you can stay, become a mutant. Just try to be nice. For hate there is no space. Don't skate on thin ice. You better not run that race. The race of the trolls, the race of the hate. I will show you the rules. Don't hate, but create. You are landing on Cryptex land. Get off the ship and take a walk. Take any guitar and start your own band. Here you can sing, here you can talk, here you can say whatever you want. Here you can stay, become a mutant. Just try to be nice. For hate there is no space. Don't skate on thin ice. You better not run that race. The race of the trolls, the race of the hate. I will show you the rules. Don't hate, but create. The race of the trolls, the race of the hate. I will show you the pose. Don't hate, but create.
Hello guys, how are you? I hope my sound is good. Sorry for the delay. I was trying to stream from the outside of my house, but I did a full setup outside, but the Wi-Fi didn't work. First thing, just to start today, like 4 days ago, I did a video. I presented a video from Michael Catt, and I was expecting this type of comments. So we have, of course, Anthony Grino. Every time I talk about Michael Catt, he reacts in a negative way. I don't know why. So this is one of his comments from the previous video. Dude, would you let my best friend rest in peace? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? I was honoring Michael Catt. I was just talking positive things about him. It was like a tribute, so you should be happy about that. I don't know what's the problem with this guy, really. He pretends to be the owner of the channel of Michael Catt. Come on. I was expecting that. Anyways, today I want to talk, of course, about one of my favorite subjects, which is Kegan Kline. There was a video that, what's the name of this guy? Tony, I forgot his name anyways. Give me 1 second, guys, here, because I forgot his name actually. Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi, right? So he made a full video about Kegan Kline today, which I'm happy about it because the subject is not buried, let's say. I think other than maybe Sleuth Intuition and myself, we are the only ones still talking about Kegan. I don't know why no one wants to talk about it. So this guy, he made a video today about Kegan Kline. Most of the things he said is like something we already know, but a couple of things were actually interesting. But my question is, why are we talking today about Kegan Kline and not before the case or during the case? I don't understand that. So he's pretending like everything related to Kegan Kline is like his new information. So you didn't know anything about Kegan before the process or during the process, and now what is the interest of for you to talk about Kegan Kline? Uh, it is weird, you know. Kegan Kline was always the prime suspect here, the prime suspect. And for some reason, everyone was discarding that hypothesis. And now it's coming back. Why? Because the pro Allen side, they have no other choice today. And maybe that's the best angle or the best possibility to go to the appealing process. I it's just I think that the strategy of the defense during the process of Richard Allen was really stupid. Not going with the Kline's angle, but going with the Odinism theory. So, anyways, before going with the video, let me say hello to you guys here in the chat. We have Mary. Mary, how are you? Nice to have you here. Goddess is here. Hello, Goddess. Just my opinion, as usual. Simdal. Hola, señor. You're missing an accent in the N word, let's say. So if I read your sentence, we can read it like hola, señor, but I know that you mean hola, señor. But you are improving with your Spanish, man. Happy to have you here, of course, my good friend Simdal from the Netherlands. Simdal, Bruschi did a great segment. It was great. I agree. I'm not a fan of Tony. I'm not a hater. I like that he's not being part like of a group. You know what I mean? He tries to become kind of independent, let's say. Of course, he has an affinity with Bob Mora, but I'm not a fan, but I'm not a hater. You know what I mean? That is the one case he does good on. He has a good production. I mean, he has a good production. His channel is he has good guests, let's say. But for some reason, it's not my favorite. But yeah, the guy's it's okay. The jury didn't know anything. The entire world knew. Lol. Shay Watson is here. How are you, Shay? I'm so happy you're here. Simdar. I'm hot and not in the good kind of way. How so? It's very hot in your town. Simdal. Sure, but his law enforcement bias is often very thick. Well, not in every case. In the Karen Reed case, actually, he thinks that Karen Reed is guilty. So I still don't have an opinion about him, but I found that the video he made today is interesting. Simdal is 33 Celsius today in the Netherlands. Here also in Canada is really, how can I say, hot today. So let me just share my screen here and let's start with the video because I think it's interesting to talk about this today. Share screen. Today having technical problems, guys. Sorry for that. But yeah, I think now. Okay, it's there. So I'm gonna just play his video. I'm gonna stop from time to time to talk about what he's saying, and I think just one just thing was really interesting. I didn't know about it, and I found it actually interesting about the birth date of Libby German and some Facebook post that Kegan Kline made on his Facebook account. So let's do it.
You're finding more evidence and more rabbit holes to go down. You suddenly discover another 20 rabbit holes down that rabbit hole. There are so many things in this case that were not investigated properly. Investigations just stopped. They were turned the other way. They said, we got nothing more here, in spite of loads of evidence. One of the big pieces in this whole story involves a character by the name of Kegan Kline. And we're going to be focusing on him in this episode of the program. And I want to show you something one of you guys recently sent to me. One of our sleuths out there sent me this. And this is, I'm going to show you something from his Facebook page. Let me give you a quick background on Kegan Kline. And I'll go into great detail in a moment. But before you see this, he is the guy who was communicating online, the last known person to communicate with Libby German before the murders. How was he communicating with her? Not as a friend. No, as a child predator. Someone who was trying to allegedly lure her to go and meet up.
Okay, so why are you talking today about Kegan Kline and you didn't talk about him at all before the process of Richard Allen and during the process? And that's interesting, right? But let's continue.
The day she was murdered. And where did he want to meet up, allegedly? The Monon High Bridge. Yeah. So there's that.
Actually, this is an inexact information. That is not exact. The actual statement was, I was supposed to meet Libby, but it's not said that he was supposed to meet her at the Monon Heights Bridge. I agree that in the context of the conversation, it is implicit that the location was the Monon Heights Bridge, the meeting location. But you cannot say, Tony, that this is a fact. You can say that this is likely what was going to happen. It's likely that that was the intended location, but it's not a fact.
But he's not, he's never been charged with anything in this crime. He's been charged with many other crimes involving child pornography, and he's serving 40 years in prison now for that.
43.
But he's a key player in all of this, denies being involved in any way, shape, or form, despite being the guy that's trying to lure her to the bridge the day she's murdered. Nothing to see here. And he's also the guy who on his Facebook page posted this.
This is interesting. I didn't know.
All right. Okay. What is this? What is there anything to see here? Well, let's break this down a little bit. Kegan Kline has these alter egos, these fake personalities that he was using to try and lure people to him, because he's a really disgusting looking human being and a really disgusting person on the inside and the outside. So he has to get behind these fake personas to have anybody have any interest in him whatsoever. So one of these is a music artist. He's claiming that he's in these bands and he's dropping these records and all this stuff, and it's all BS. It's just all completely made up. But on...
Actually, he can sing like a bird, but in jail, in prison.
His Facebook page, he posts this. Now, what's significant about this? Well, he drops this on his Facebook page roughly a year after the murders, and you can see the date right up there. Okay, so it's roughly a year. And then the graphic itself. Got his name up there, Kegan Kline, and then there's a rose, a white rose in the middle of the graphic with a black backdrop. And then we see the date 12/27. Now, on the surface, one could go, oh, is that the album drop date? That's what one would think. It also happens to be Libby German's birthday.
That is really interesting. I didn't know about that. I mean, maybe it doesn't mean nothing, but we are talking about Kegan Kline. He's connected to this crime, in my opinion. To me, there's a nexus between the crimes and the crime. There are like 10,000 coincidences connecting the clients to the murders. And this is another one. I know it's far-fetched, maybe not that far-fetched, but it's interesting. 12/27 is actually the birthday of Libby. Really, really interesting. This is new for me. I didn't know about it. I don't know, guys, if you knew it, but I don't think it's not significant. It's interesting, at least.
And the white roses represent innocence, purity. No, Libby German was a little girl. So one could easily think of her that way, especially if you're a child predator and wanting to take that from someone. White rose, the word rose on this graphic. And the other side, it literally says rose, in case you're listening. That's also
What do you mean, trial junkie? What do you mean the exact term? So we cannot analyze the whole information we have about Kegan Kline. So I don't get your point, for real.
Liberty's Liberty's middle name, Liberty Rose German. So there's that.
And yes, hit the like. Thank you, Zero Cool. Hit the like, guys.
Suspicious, weird. Is it a tribute to this young girl who lost her life about a year before he posted this? Or is this some sort of sadistic look at me, haha, you won't figure me out type way of posting? Because he's kind of an idiot.
He's an idiot for sure.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of creepy. It's really weird, and it's really creepy.
He's creepy.
And we're going to go into the whole story of Kegan Kline here in just a moment. I want to show you one other creepy thing that has been sent to me recently. And you may have seen this before. I may just be playing catch up and have missed some of these things because I don't really go into the Reddits and all of that. This is an image I'm going to show you here. And they want to contextualize it as well. You know, they were saying, the authorities in Delphi were saying, oh, you know, we put those composite sketches out there, but obviously Richard Allen doesn't look like any of them. So who could it be? Well, we could never figure out.
I disagree. To me, the sketches means nothing. You cannot say that Richard Allen doesn't resemble or he doesn't look like the sketches. At the same time, you cannot say that he looks like the sketches. Everybody, even you, Tony, well, look at your face. Guys, look at the face of Tony here. He looks like the old bridge guy, like Jerry Holman, the same thing. When we do this type of side-by-sides, it's just so stupid, so stupid.
Could never figure out who those sketches looked like. Really? Because a lot of other people did. What you see on the screen here, if you're watching us on YouTube and if you're listening to us, please go check out our YouTube channel, Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi, and you can...
Stupid. Side-by-sides like this, for real, it doesn't help. You can do a side-by-side between the old Blitz guy sketch and the young Blitz guy sketch with anyone. Brian Chadwell, Ron Logan, Richard Allen, Daniel Nations, Tony Bruschi, Cryptex, Simdal, Trial Junkie, Zero Cool. It's gonna be a match. So I really hate this side-by-sides. It's just stupid.
See the video version of all of these is the half and half composite sketches of what witnesses or who witnesses say they saw out there that day, and it's faces divided. You have one half the composite sketch, the other half an actual photo of some individuals who were alleged to have been seen out there that day. On opposite ends is Kegan Kline. That's Kegan there. That's Kegan there.
That's
the middle, Anthony Kline, his dad. Again, none of them have been charged with anything in this case.
I agree with you, Sim, that the full sketch situation scenario is just confusing. To me, it's just an indication that law enforcement was lost. They were lost, 100%. We know that. We know now what were the origins of those sketches, but anyways, it created a lot of confusion to the public. They were asking for help, and they were just creating confusion for real. But side by sides, it's just crap.
Case. But, if you're looking for somebody that looks like the composite sketches, that other hikers said, hey, here's...
Exactly, Shay. And the sketches, they were not allowed to be part of the trial. What the fuck? That was a major part of the whole investigation, of the whole crappy, trashy investigation. And the sketches were not allowed to be part of the trial because, of course, the jury, they were confused about that. Us, we were just confused, but it's just unacceptable for real.
Who I saw, you might have a few folks right there because none of them look like Richard Allen. So there's that. Let's get into our story. The last person, the very last person known to have contact with Liberty German before her murder was not Richard Allen. It was Kegan Kline. That fact alone should have made Kline the prime focus of the Delphi murders investigation. It should have led...
Well, this is not a fact, actually. And I would like to have that information as a fact. But we know that at least Kegan Kline was the last one communicating with Libby online. But we don't know if he was the last one in contact with Libby, like physically, you know what I mean? So he's not giving facts at all. Even if my theory is that the clients were involved, some statements he's making here are not fully correct.
To immediate scrutiny, a deep dive into his digital history, and a race to uncover whether his communication with Liberty was more than just another online interaction. But instead, law enforcement sat on that information, let it collect a little dust, finally age, for 3 years, while they chased dead-end leads and ignored the most damning piece of evidence that they had from the very start, a direct link between Kegan Kline and one of the victims. Liberty German wasn't just a random teenager scrolling through social media. She was being groomed. She'd been targeted by a predator hiding behind a fake online persona, a predator who was actively manipulating multiple underage girls at the time, including her. And on February 13th, 2017, the day she and Abby Williams disappeared, that predator's profile was Anthony Schatz, and it was still active. It turns out it was Kegan Kline. Yeah, the name Anthony Schatz.
So if this was so significant, and if this whole Kegan Kline situation was that important, why the defense, why didn't use the Kegan Kline's angle during the process? Why not? And why now? This is the angle that we are trying to attack here. Now that we know that an appealing process is under construction, let's say. That's a question for you guys in the chat as well. Why do you think that? Of course, Kegan Kline was the prime suspect. In my opinion, he was the mastermind of the crime. But the defense was not interested at all. Zero interest to use Kegan Kline as part of their strategy. Why? I know. I imagine why, but I want to know your thoughts about it before. I want to read your thoughts in the chat. It's just doesn't make sense. Oh, it makes sense actually. It makes a lot of sense. Anyways, I want to read your comments and then we can discuss about it.
Funny part makes me wonder a little because his dad's name is Anthony. And there have been some transcripts out there that show some interesting accusations that Kegan has made that maybe other people were using that profile as well. Let's be absolutely clear, though. Kegan Kline was not just some guy who happened to know Liberty. He was the last confirmed person to be in contact with her before she was murdered.
Online.
That alone should have made a massive red flag go up on the part of investigators.
And part of the process as well. Why was not that part of the process? Tell me, you tell me.
That also should have put a spotlight on him immediately, but the police didn't act. Not in 2017, not in 2018, not even 2019. Even though they knew that this guy is catfishing children. Just let him do his thing. By the time they finally got around to interrogating him in 2020, it wasn't even because of Liberty German. It was because of an entirely different child exploitation case. Yeah. They finally get around to this guy, Kegan Kline. Again, nothing to see here.
Yeah, nothing to see here today, but nothing to see here before. So why today? That's my point. Why today are you seeing something there and not before? Why was not something that we should include as part of the process before? Now it seems that it's something interesting. It's something significant. Why?
So here's a question that has never been answered. Why did law enforcement ignore the strongest lead they ever had?
This is a very good question. I don't think he ignored that lead. Actually, I think that the full key of this process, it was fully investigated. Kegan Kline, he confessed. After his confession, we know that there was the search of the Wabash River, and we know what happened after the search. So don't ignore that obvious fact, Tony.
And that's just one of the many strong leads. There's Ron Logan, too. Bridge guy. But we're not getting into that one on this video. There's too much to unpack about Kegan Kline here. You want to see the Ron Logan ones? We got them on our channel. Check it out. And while we're at this moment, I want to ask you to press subscribe wherever you're listening to this, or if you're on YouTube, hit the button, hit the bell, hit whatever you need to hit on whatever platform it is so you don't miss any of our coverage on this case, because we will continue to dive through this and wade through this until actual justice is served, because God knows it's not the guy that got locked up. There's no way around it. This wasn't just a mistake.
Or he was one of them. That's my opinion.
This was a failure to investigate logic. A known predator, already under scrutiny for his involvement in online exploitation, had direct access to one of the victims just before she was murdered. And yet he was treated as an afterthought. Meanwhile, Richard Allen, a man who had no digital connection to the victims at all, was charged and convicted. And now with Alan locked up, Kegan Kline has slipped into the background of this case again. And if his role into it no longer matters, well, I guess that may be what some think, but I think we need to bring back a little light here, get the spotlight out, get the big flashlight out.
Why are you gonna try to bring light today, not before? This is what bothers me. We know all of this stuff. We knew it since 2020. So now what? Why now? Why now? It's new for you? Like, were you just lost in the desert, or I don't understand. You know the case, so why now? Not everyone, but a lot of people were ignoring the Kline's angle, and now it's like the patch mode stuff. Now it's convenient. Why? Because Richard Allen is convicted. So okay, we need to blame Kegan Kline today. Why didn't we blame Kegan before? Why today? Why were we blind before? This is something that I don't understand. Kegan Kline is the obvious person since the beginning, and now is the angle to attack. Why not before? I don't know, guys, if you are following me. It's just that it makes me mad. The defense, they were using the wrong strategy. I think I know why, or I have my hypothesis. It's just, anyways, let's continue. It makes me a little bit mad, for real.
And go, I think we need to look back over here, guys, because I don't know how you didn't do it in the first place. Unless, of course, nobody wants to admit they're wrong, nobody wants to admit they haven't figured anything out, or we're protecting somebody. I don't think you're protecting Kegan Kline.
At the same time, yes, they were protecting Kegan somehow. And I think in this point, he's right. To me, there is something with power in that community, in Delphi, someone close to law enforcement that is actually linked to the crime. That scenario of the Dropbox, there's a lot of people being involved. And for sure, some people with power are there. So Kegan Kline, he has that information. Law enforcement, they know who is involved in the whole ring of child molestation, let's say. And when Carter was saying that in the famous press conference of 2019, that we are opening the biggest CSAM case of the whole history of Indiana. I didn't see anything about that so far. So who was involved in that CSAM ring? Because he told us that in 2019. This is the biggest CSAM case of the whole history of Indiana. Where are the results of that whole big CSAM investigation? I haven't seen anything about it. Why? So that's why Kegan Kline, he was not charged with anything related to Delphi. My hypothesis is that law enforcement, they made a negotiation with Kegan Kline, and part of the motivation of that negotiation is, one, because he was ratting on one of the guys that was involved in the crime. So that's the easy way for law enforcement to clean their hands and close the case. And second one is because in that ring, there's something with power, and law enforcement, they didn't want to have Kegan Kline talking about it during the process. So this is just my opinion. I know that Kegan Kline is serving 43 years old, 43 years behind bars, but he's not gonna serve 43 years. He's gonna serve maybe at the maximum 10 years, in my opinion. Let's see. But again, makes me mad. The whole situation is just so obvious, and we are just blind about it.
His name never should have left the conversation in the first place. So let's talk about what police actually knew. From the moment Liberty's phone was examined in 2017, investigators saw it, the Anthony Shots profile, actively messaging her. The account had been used to flirt, manipulate, and engage with young girls, convincing them to send explicit photos. This isn't speculation. Kline admitted to creating the account. He admitted to using stolen images of a male model to catfish minors because, I mean, look at him. Do you think that's going to catfish anybody? You think it's going to get a normal human being? Gee, you don't look like a child predator at all.
And some people is trying to connect that cop from Alaska, the model that was used as the Anthony Shots image on the Kegan Kline's account. Some people are trying to connect that guy with the crime. I think this is just insane. This guy, the cop, he doesn't have anything to do with the crime, of course. He's another victim, in my opinion, 100%.
He admitted that his goal was to lure girls into trusting him so he could get exactly what he wanted. And Liberty was one of it.
Yeah, the judge didn't allow any. Sorry, my computer is acting weird. Didn't allow Kline or Logan information. Yeah, but the full 193-page memorandum was not about the Klines, and it was not about Ron Logan, the obvious suspects. It was about the Odinist. So they didn't try to go hard with the Klines trial junkie. You know that. We know that. Try to cover that the best you can, but it was obvious that the defense, they were not interested in the Klines, and they were not even interested in Ron Logan's angle. And the worst is that the defense attorneys, the firm behind the Richard Allen's attorneys, they were part of the Kegan Kline's defense in the other process related to CSAM. So there was a conflict of interest there. So we shouldn't accept that. It's unacceptable.
His targets. This wasn't a vague connection. It wasn't just a name in a chat log. This was an active online predator who had direct access to one of the victims at the exact time she went missing. And yet, despite having all of this evidence in their hands, law enforcement took 3 years before they even questioned Kline about Delphi. What exactly were they waiting for? The truth is, it is very hard to understand how police justified ignoring this lead. And now someone say, well, they did ignore it. They did look in. Yeah, they did. They did eventually look into him. And then what? I don't know. If you're the one that's catfishing one of the girls who dies and you talk about going and meeting her the day she dies, at the place she dies, I would think that might be probable cause for an arrest. Just saying. It wasn't just one red flag, it was a flashing neon sign, and yet no immediate action was taken. No arrest, no raid of Kline's home, no deep dive into his digital records until 2020, when an entirely different case forced them to finally act. And when they finally got around to questioning him about Liberty, he lied. Surprise.
He lied. But you know how to detect when someone is lying, you know. That's why law enforcement, they have experts in deception and detection. That's why they have polygraphs. And don't tell me that when Kegan Kline made that confession at the Grissom Air Force Base, law enforcement, they went into the expedition of the Wabash River just by believing in the Kegan Kline lies without any other indication of truth in his words. You know what I mean? There was a polygraph. They know, they are able to detect when someone is telling the truth or when someone is telling a lie. We, as a YouTubers, as a viewers, subscribers, whatever, we cannot make that difference. But law enforcement, they have to know how to do it. They are trained, they are paid to do that.
Over and over, Kline denied knowing anything. He claimed he didn't remember their conversation. He said he blocked her because she was annoying. You know, those annoying girls that are underage that you're catfishing, they're just annoying. I just want to block them. I don't want to prey on them like I'm actively doing right now.
I agree, Hiawatha. Big fishes. I'm not talking about fishy. I'm talking about big fishes. Big fishes are were in that Dropbox for sure. People with power, judges, politicians, for sure, for sure. It's obvious.
He called the idea that they were supposed to meet up a total lie, even though the chat logs suggest otherwise. And the police let him walk out of that room without a single charge related to Delphi. Took him at his word. For 3 years, law enforcement had ignored Kegan Kline. And when they finally sat him down and confronted him with fact, with truth, with chat logs, and he says, "Dad, it's not real. It's a lie." Or whatever BS spewed out of his mouth, they still didn't do anything about it.
I don't know, Simdal. Yes and not. That depends. It depends if there's a link between the Clines and Richard Allen, because that could be like the card under the sleeve of law enforcement. Let's say, I'm positive that law enforcement, they were not expecting that the Kegan Kline angle was to be part of the strategy of the defense, because in my opinion, they had some information about a potential link between Allen and Kegan Kline, so they were not worried about it. Let's say, if we follow your hypothesis, in the case the defense, they used the Kline's angle during the process, that's where the prosecution, they would have a card under the sleeve to say, yeah, you're using the Kline as part of your strategy. Well, we have information about that. We know that Richard Allen and Kegan Kline, they were connected. I know speculation, but you know, when I connect the dots, that's my conclusion. But I understand your point.
To protect and serve over there in Delphi, right? You got a great force. Instead, they turn their attention to someone else, a man with no digital footprint in Liberty's life at all. A man who wasn't even on their radar for the first 5 years of the investigation. A man who actually raised his hand at the beginning of this when the girls, they found dead. And they said, "Who was out here hiking today? Please call us with any information you have, with anything that you know. What did you see? Even if you think it's just completely benign, just tell us what was your experience like out there that day." And you know who raised his hand? Richard Allen. He said, "Yeah, I'm a dad. I'm a father. I work over here at CVS. A lot of people know me. How can I help?" You know, like child killers do. They always raise their hand and go, hey, I was there that day. Somehow to Delphi, that was, oh, this.
Well, I disagree here. Yeah, some killers, they do that. They have no choice. Come on. Yeah, this is not the first time. If this is the case, it's not the first time that someone involved in a crime is going to talk to law enforcement to say that they were there at the time of the murders or around the time of the murders. I'm not saying that Richard Allen is the killer. I think he was involved somehow, but saying that just because he was open to talk to law enforcement, that's an indication that he was not part of this. Come on, it's not the first time that, and in multiple cases, the actors of the crime, they were talking to law enforcement at the beginning of the investigation, because it's part of their own strategy, of course, as well.
Must be the guy. Oh, wait, that took them another 6 years when they ran out of other leads, or they just stopped pursuing real ones or pretended that they didn't exist. Then they went after Richard Allen and convicted him with little to no evidence. A man whose only physical connection to the crime scene was a single bullet. And by the way, the crime was not committed with a bullet. There's no evidence that a gun was even shown to the girls. There's nothing involving a gun in this case. But they found a single bullet on the trampled crime scene that they let all these people go through. All these people trampling through, officers, volunteers, many people with guns. So after 40 to 60 or more people wander through this crime scene, somebody finds a bullet on the ground, an unspent bullet. Who might that belong to? I don't know any.
Here I agree 100% with Tony here. That whole bullet situation is so fishy, so fishy. They were trying to match that unspent round with the Richard Allen's gun, but we know that type of match, let's say, is also applicable to Ron Logan, to Brad Weber, to it's just junk science. This is a fishy move by law enforcement. 100% with Tony here.
Any of the 40, 50, 60 or more people who've been trampling through this scene the last 4 days? Maybe we should check all them. Oh, no. 6 years later, we're going to go see if Rick Allen has a gun that maybe would fit this bullet. A very common bullet, by the way, that almost anyone would have if they're a regular gun owner. And they go, look, this bullet fits your gun. Can't really prove it. We got this guy who says it might look like it kind of has a marking, even though it's unspent. And the science of this is pretty much bunk. It must be his, because we found that single bullet there, and he has a gun that it could go into. That means it's him. Now, keep in mind, this is a gun-loving community, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. All I'm saying is, if you're going to connect this guy and say this is your guy because of a single bullet, I think you probably would be lining up nearly half of your town if we're going to match bullets here. Or just, again, going back to all the people who trampled through the scene that have guns, where there likely could have been a bullet dropped. Because a CVS guy who went out for a walk didn't have his gun with him. Rick Allen was just out for a walk, and then he raises his hand and said, how can I help? But that bullet.
Yeah, Boston, but the biggest CSAM investigation in the whole history of Indiana, not in the whole history of USA, I don't know if the arrests in Florida were actually linked to the Delphi's case. So I didn't see anything that was actually part of a result of the Delphi's case in terms of arrests of predators in Indiana. I didn't see that at all.
bullet must be his, so that automatically means he must have killed these girls. Yes, this is their logic. And if you think I'm making that up, dig into this case. This is why we are still talking about it, because they convicted him and he's in prison now for the next 130 years. Again, he's a dad. He was a pharmacy tech. He was a husband. No criminal history. Nothing. Nada. No weird search history. No patterns of behavior that would indicate maybe there's some sort of interest in kids or killing or whatever. Nothing. Just a bullet on the ground that fit a gun he owned. So better be careful if you ever drop a bullet anywhere, because
Oh, come on, trial junkie. Come on. Just until the letters of Richie Davis? No, of course they had tons of material to connect the Klines with the murders. How can you say that the actual element to connect the Klines with the murders is the confession of Richie Davis? It's not.
crimes nearby, near Delphi, you're going to get pinned for it, or you won't. So here we are years later, still left with the same unanswered questions. Why was Kegan Kline allowed to slip through the cracks? Because
imagine the size of the crack if he was allowed to slip in that type of cracks. It's not a crack, it's like a black hole. Joke besides, or joke apart, yeah, why was he allowed to operate free, let's say? That's a good question. Was Kegan Kline an informant, an informer? Was what do you think, guys? What's your opinion about that? It's a very good question, and I have the same questions since forever. The other time I was talking to Ruckus about it, my opinion is that maybe Kegan, he was some type of informer or informant, let's say. But I want to know your opinion, guys.
Until we have an answer to that, this case is not solved. And it never will be. Kegan Kline wasn't just another suspect in the Delphi murders investigation. He was the only person with a verifiable digital connection to Liberty German before she was killed. He wasn't some mystery figure who vanished into the ether after the crime.
Okay, if it was not a mystery, why the defense, they didn't use that element as part of their strategy? It doesn't make sense. And why are you talking about that today and not before? That makes me mad, guys. Really, I'm becoming mad again.
He was right there behind a fake online persona, actively grooming underage girls and talking to Liberty up until the day she disappeared, and denying it under the profile Anthony Shots. Wasn't some throwaway account either. It was a carefully constructed trap designed to lure young, vulnerable girls in. Kline stole photos of a male model, sometimes with sharp features, a perfect jawline, the kind of guy who could pass as an Instagram influencer. He built a fake identity around it, an online persona meant to gain trust, build connections, and exploit children. And for years, that's exactly what he did.
I agree with you, Trial Junkie. He was a broker. And by broker, in my opinion, that is a synonym of mastermind. People make jokes about that because everybody tends to underestimate Kegan. But to me, is not someone to underestimate. And yes, I agree. He was the broker, and not only the broker, the mastermind of the whole crime.
When police finally searched Kline's electronic devices in 2020, what they found was horrific. Thousands of explicit images and videos of minors. Thousands of chats between Kline and underage girls. It wasn't just one or two victims. It was a pattern, a system he had perfected. And right there, among all those digital horrors was Liberty German. She'd been talking to Anthony Schatz, not just once, not just in passing. She was actively communicating with Kline's fake account the day before she was murdered. And that was not speculation. That wasn't theory. That was fact. Police knew that Liberty had been speaking to this account. They had the chat logs. They could see the messages. They knew that this was more than some casual conversation. And the most damning detail, the chat logs suggested that Liberty and Anthony Schatz had planned to meet up. We're not talking about vague, half-joking exchange. We're talking about something serious enough to be flagged in the investigation, something that made police believe that Liberty may have been lured to the bridge that day under false pretenses. Think about that for a second. A known predator actively communicating with Liberty German, a meeting may have been planned, and instead of going after that lead immediately, law enforcement sat on this information for years.
They didn't sat on the information for years. Kegan Kline, he was fully investigated. I think that they knew that he was part of the crime. They made a negotiation with Kegan Kline after his confession at the Grissom Air Force Base. So it was not that law enforcement, they didn't investigate Kegan. They did it, but it was not a good move to involve Kegan in the process, because in that Dropbox scenario, in the whole ring situation, some people with power close to law enforcement were involved. So let's see the whole picture here. We were not born yesterday.
It was there, or if there was ever a moment where the Delphi investigation completely fell apart, this was it. Because digital records don't lie. There was no reason to hesitate, no reason for police to question whether this was relevant. The second they saw Liberty German's name in the chat logs, the second they saw messages between her and Anthony Schatz leading up to the day she vanished, Kegan Kline should have been the #1 priority. But he wasn't. Instead of treating this as a massive lead, as it was, police buried it.
Yeah, just a quick stop here. Mary, you're saying that the gun of Richard Allen was destroyed by law enforcement? I didn't know about that. So if you have some information, maybe can you give us some input about it, because I don't know about that for real.
They never made a public statement about it in 2017. They never put out warnings about the Anthony Schatz profile to see if other victims might come forward. They never once told the public that they were actively investigating a known child predator who had been talking to Liberty the day before she was murdered. For 3 years, nothing happened. Kline remained free. His Anthony Schatz account was never linked to the case publicly. The investigation dragged on, cycling through suspects, chasing tips that led nowhere. Unless, of course, you're talking about Ron Logan. But again, that's for...
What do you mean, trial junkie? What evidence? We have a confession at the Grissom Air Force Base. A confession is not evidence. So the confession that Richard Allen made at the Westville Correctional Facility was the big element to convict Richard Allen. And are you saying that we don't have any evidence connecting Kegan Kline to the crime? We have a confession. Let's forget about the rest of the elements. Let's forget about that. Kegan Kline was the one behind the Anthony Schatz account, that he was supposed to meet Libby the day of the murders at the Monon Heights Bridge, that he was sending money to Libby via the Cash App application, because remember that according to the transcripts, the statement was, we have the money, the Anthony Schatz money account going to Libby. We have the Marathon gas station material being magically disappeared. And we can continue the Vegas trip, the Kyla testimony. We are never gonna end here when we talk about Kegan. but we have a confession, and that confession led to the search of the Wabash River, and that led to the arrest of Richard Allen. So how can you say that we don't have any evidence? So if the confession evidence was the main element to convict Richard Allen, why are we going to disregard or to discard the confession of Kegan Kline? I don't understand. Maybe you can explain to me that, but I don't understand that.
For another story. While the one person actually connected to Liberty was left untouched, and all the while Kline kept up his act, he kept using Anthony shots to groom more girls. He continued to build trust with underage victims under the same fake persona, pretending to be someone he wasn't.
You're not making me mad. I'm mad because of the whole situation. It's not against you, and I appreciate your comments, and I actually love when you challenge my ideas and my opinions, and I love you as a viewer. It's just like I become so passionate about this case. Sorry if I was using the wrong words here. Trial junkie is not it wasn't my intention. Actually, I love that type of interactions. It's like an intellectual, not game, but I think it's constructive, And thank you for commenting and giving me your ideas here. It's the whole situation that makes me mad. It's not you, for sure. Sorry if you talk that personal. It's not against you at all. Sorry for that.
He wasn't hiding. He was right there doing exactly what he had been doing when he talked to Liberty. It wasn't until 2020, when Kline was finally arrested for child exploitation, that law enforcement even started to acknowledge his connection to the Delphi case. But by then it was too late. They'd wasted years. And that's why this case still doesn't make sense now. If law enforcement truly believed that Kegan Kline had nothing to do with the murders, then why did they hide the fact that he was talking to one of the victims? If they truly thought Anthony Shots was irrelevant,
they didn't hide that fact. We have a transcript where it is clearly stated that he was in contact with Libby, and that he was the last person in contact with Liberty German, at least online. So don't you say that they were hiding that. They were not hiding that. It's public information.
Then why did they wait so long to publicly acknowledge it? And if they did suspect that Kline played a role, then why was he never charged with anything related to the Delphi case?
Because there was a negotiation. It's so obvious. That's why. It's so obvious. It's evident. Come on.
None of this adds up.
It does. It does up. It's so clear. It's so transparent. It's so obvious. Come on. It's just try to use your good sense. It's obvious. It does up. 100%. Come on.
What we do know is this. The strongest lead in the Delphi murders case was ignored for years, and Liberty German was being manipulated by a known predator. She was communicating with him directly, and police had this evidence from the start.
And they use it. Of course. That's why they went to search the Wabash River.
And yet, despite this, Kegan Kline still wasn't the one sitting in the defendant's chair in 2024. And that is a failure that cannot be ignored. By 2017, police had everything they needed to at least treat Kegan Kline as a person of interest in the Delphi murders. Liberty German's phone gave them the biggest lead in the entire investigation. Her active conversations with Anthony Shots' account leading up to the day she was killed, the fact that she had been talking to his fake profile, should have launched an immediate deep dive into the person behind it. But that did not happen. Instead, law enforcement sat on the information for 3 years. And in those 3 years, Kegan Kline was left alone. There were no raids on his home, no early morning knocks on the door, no pressure to explain why his fake account was the last known digital contact with one of the victims. While the police spun their wheels chasing dead-end leads, Kline lived his life like nothing had happened. This wasn't a case of limited technology or difficult trail to follow. The second police pulled Liberty's phone.
Come on, just my opinion. The defense, they didn't want to use Kegan Kline as part of the strategy at all. They ignored Kegan Kline, 100% ignored. The full Frank's memorandum was about the Odinism. At one point, they had Kegan Kline as part of the witnesses, and they never called Kegan. They had the opportunity, they had the option to call Kegan as one of the witnesses. Remember that they had Chadwell, Richie Davis, and Kegan Kline, and the other guy that I forgot, the one who had the confession about Ron Logan. They didn't use that option during the process. So I don't buy that.
Records, they had his profile name. From there, it would have taken not much to trace that account back to its creator, especially considering that Kline wasn't some master criminal hiding behind his tracks. He had been running the same scams and exploiting girls online for years. I should have found him immediately. Instead, investigators...
That's a great sentence, trial junkie. Of course, he has a criminal mind. Of course.
Chased vague descriptions of possible suspects, sifted through thousands of tips, and wasted time on people with no actual connection to the victims. Remember, they also had the sketch. Again, this doesn't look like anybody. That's no one. There's no one to be seen there. That doesn't match a description.
Come on. Side by sides. That's doesn't mean anything to me. Side by sides, you can put Hiawatha or Trial Junkie next to one of those sketches, and you're gonna say that they are British guy.
Okay. Meanwhile, Kline continued using Anthony shots to target more girls, manipulate them, and collect explicit images, all while law enforcement ignored the most crucial digital trail sitting directly in front of them. He had 3 more years to talk to more victims, free to keep running the same schemes that he had used on Liberty German, free because police had failed to act on the most obvious suspect they had. When they finally did show up at his door in August of 2020, it wasn't because they had finally put 2 and 2 together about the Delphi murders. It was because something else entirely. The FBI wasn't raiding Kline's home because they had...
You never seen the confession of... which confession? The confession of Kegan Kline at the Grissom Air Force Base? You never saw that? Okay. I'm going to look for it and I'm going to play it here because it's public information. And it was stated that the Wabash River search was a direct consequence of the Kegan Kline's confession at the Grissom Air Force Base.
Uncovered new evidence linking him to Liberty's disappearance. They were there because of a separate child exploitation case. Authorities had been tracking a massive network of online predators, and Kline's name just happened to surface as one of the worst offenders. Surprise! When they executed the warrant, what they found was beyond disturbing. Kline's devices contained over 100,000 images and videos of child pornography, one of the largest collections ever uncovered in the state up to that time. His chat showed those years of grooming, manipulation, and coercion. He had dozens, if not hundreds of victims, and yet somehow, even with that mountain of evidence, law enforcement still hadn't prioritized his connection in Delphi. It was only after his arrest that someone finally decided to ask some questions. Hey, this guy was talking to Liberty German right before she was killed. Should we look at that? 3 years. 3 years of evidence sitting untouched. 3 years. And what else did he do in those 3 years that we don't even know about, I guess, is another big question. When they finally did bring him to questioning about Delphi, he just denied everything. Despite his denials being in direct contradiction of the physical evidence they had in front of them.
Free Ricky Bay. Yeah, of course I understand that. Of course, 100%. I always said that I don't put too much weight on that confessions at all. Zero. The conditions under the confessions were made are not acceptable. I agree with you 100%. Don't finish your sentence with get a real bro, because I agree with you. So you get real. At least try to listen to the words I say, because I always said that I never put any weight on the confessions of Richard Allen. This is stupid, of course, especially when we know that the behavior of Monica Walla was just unacceptable, and that the whole information about the van was all around the place in internet. So don't put words in my mouth that I never said.
He claimed he didn't remember his conversations with Liberty, conveniently. Said he blocked her because she was annoying. No connection. And because police had wasted so much time, they had no way to prove otherwise. By August of 2020, whatever physical evidence might have connected Kline to the crime scene was long gone. Any electronic evidence that could have tied him to the murders had either been wiped or was now buried under years of new digital activity.
Me too, I'm glad. I'm actually glad. But at the same time, I'm mad, because it's not today that we have to talk about the clients. We had to talk about the clients before and during the process, but we were dreaming about Odinism. That's what makes me mad. They diverted the whole scenario. We were not focused on the important situation. That's what makes me mad. You know what I mean?
The trail was kind of cold, despite it being a burning inferno right after that little cold snap there. You just got to get through it. And that was law enforcement's fault.
Yeah, I know how what. He's playing dumb, like Kegan Kline. He's playing dumb, of course. And a lot of people are playing dumb. I know. I understand your point, 100%. I'm with you.
They had the lead, they had the name, they had the evidence, and they did nothing with it. Remember, I got to say here, Kline's never been charged with anything related to the Delphi murders. So, innocent in the eyes of the
What are you saying? That Richard Allen admitted he was using the Anthony Shots account? What? This is not true at all. Oh, where does it come, that information?
law. Kegan Kline was simply arrested for child exploitation, and possession of child pornography. And just like that, the biggest mistake of the investigation was complete. Kline should have been the focus from the very beginning. Instead, he was left untouched for 3 years. By the time police finally got around to questioning him, it was too late to fix their mistake. And yet, they went on. They went on acting as if, did we miss something? Nah, we're all good. They put the evidence in front of him, showed him the digital records, proving that his fake profile was still in use, still messaging, still engaging with underage.
I'm just gonna stop to say hello to Jeff Ignatowski. I hope he's going better. Yeah, he's having a full recovery for sure, for real.
girls, possibly even Liberty, right before she vanished. And Kline had no explanation for this. He didn't even try to offer one. Instead, he just denied everything. Said he didn't remember the chats. He blamed someone else for using his phone. He called the idea that he was supposed to meet up with Liberty a total lie, despite police having chat logs suggesting otherwise. It was a masterclass in dodging accountability, and somehow the police just let him do it. At no point during the interrogation did Kline offer a single believable reason for why his account was still active.
Digital, can you give us maybe more information about it? I really don't know anything about that, and I don't understand your comment. The model from the Shots account flew to Alaska in the same plane as the guy who first had the Abby? What do you mean? The guy who first had the Abby on the bridge photo. It sounds interesting as an information, but first of all, I don't understand your comment. Maybe some word is missing, or maybe it's my English. And second one, I don't know that information. So if you can give us a little bit of details about that, that's gonna be interesting for the whole chat here. Digital.
On the day of Liberty's disappearance, he had no way to explain why he had continued using Anthony shots even after he claimed to have blocked her. He had no answer for why chat records suggested a potential meetup. And yet, instead of pressing him harder, instead of calling out his inconsistencies, instead of treating him like the prime suspect he should have been, police backed off. They had him cornered with digital evidence, and they let him control the conversation. They should have dug deeper, demanded real answers, pushed him until he cracked. Instead, they let him wiggle his little way through. I don't know how he'd really get out of anything physically, but, you know. Crisco. At the end of the interrogation, Kline walked out of that room without a single charge.
How do you know that the model sold the pictures? I mean, this is new for me, and I know that you do a deep research in this case, Digital. I respect you a lot, but this is new for me. So, and it doesn't make sense. If his image, if his pictures are gonna be online as part of this catfishing scenario, it's just like a stupid move, in my opinion. But we want to know more details. Maybe you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I didn't know about that. It's interesting. So if you can tell us a little bit more of information, it's going to be interesting for all of us here.
Related to the Delphi murders. Again, 3 years of sitting on the biggest lead in the case. They finally confront him. Let him walk away. And in doing so, they gave Kegan Kline exactly what he wanted. By September of 2022, Kegan Kline had been sitting in an Indiana jail cell for over 2 years, convicted of child exploitation and awaiting sentencing. The Delphi murders investigation, now 5 years old, had seemingly moved past him. The public focus had shifted, and yet law enforcement wasn't done with him just yet. That month, without warning, investigators descended on the Wabash River near Kline's home in Peru, Indiana. Anyway, this wasn't just a casual search. This was a massive operation. Boats, divers, excavation teams, lots of people combing through the riverbed in what was clearly a hunt for something important. Yet no one ever explained what that something was. For 2 weeks, the search continued. Authorities spent countless hours scouring the river, sifting through debris, dredging up whatever they could find. News helicopters hovered overhead. The public speculated. And then, just as quickly as it started, it was over. And nothing was ever said about it again. What were they looking for? That's a question that still has no answer, because if Kegan Kline had never been considered a serious suspect in the Delphi murders, if law enforcement truly believed he had nothing to do with it, then why, after all this time, were they suddenly searching near his home for what appeared to be crucial evidence? Timing alone raises even more questions. For years, investigators had ignored Kline's connection to Liberty German. They let him slide through the fingers of investigators.
Okay, I understand better now, digital, but that means that he was not part of the whole catfishing scenario. If he didn't know that, if you are a model, I know, I guess it's normal for you to sell your pictures, your photos. So if I understand well your comment, again, that reinforces my idea of him being a victim as well, the model, the cop.
Yet in 2022, there were some.
And again, if those pictures were public, why Kegan Kline was paying for those pictures? It's very easy to find a model in internet and just to pick pictures to create a false account, a fake account. I actually I understand your point, but it doesn't make sense at all. Kegan Kline is intelligent. He's smart. Why are he going to pay someone for pictures if he's able to find pictures of any model in the world online? Like, seriously, to me, it doesn't make sense. 0 sense at all. I'm not challenging your information. Maybe you're right, but it doesn't make sense. It's just internet is like an ocean of pictures or videos of information, and you're gonna pay someone for pictures of him being a model. Like, nah, I don't buy it.
Suddenly digging through a riverbed for something he might have hidden? This doesn't seem to add up. If the search was unrelated to Delphi, then why didn't law enforcement make that clear? Why didn't they tell the public what they were looking for? At least by now. They had never been shy about releasing updates in the case before, but now when it came to searching an area connected to Kegan Kline, they were silent. If the search was connected to Delphi, then that's an even bigger problem, because if investigators were, in fact, searching for a weapon, a phone, or another piece of physical evidence related...
It's not an if the search was connected. The search was connected. That was a clear statement from law enforcement. The search of the Wabash River was a direct consequence of the confession of Kegan Kline at the Grissom Air Force Base. That was a clear statement of law enforcement. So don't say if. It is not if, it was.
Related to the murders, then it means they had serious doubts about the person they were about to arrest. Keep in mind, if somebody threw a phone, weapon, a knife, box cutter in that river...
I just have to stop to say hello to Mar, because I love Mar. I know that Mar and Mar ideas and my ideas are not the same, but we have a good chemistry. And just to say hello to you.
Well, you know, if you know anything about the Midwest, you get some weather every year. And we're talking many summers and winters having gone through probably quite a bit of flooding on and off in that very river. You're probably not going to find anything out there that many years later. Good try, though. Maybe you should have thought of that when you looked at her phone and found this guy on it. And then you could trace that back to him being in your town and maybe look at the riverbed right away. I don't know. That's just me. I'm not an investigator. I just talk about this stuff. I think most people would probably run to that conclusion. It's even like below Nancy Drew level. 1 month later, in October of 2022, Richard Allen was charged with the Delphi murders. You know, because they didn't find that.
One thing, we don't have the troll today. That's interesting. Interesting. Like we had like 3 live streamings with our favorite troll. Today, no troll so far. So I don't know what's happening today.
That box cutter. 5-6 years after the murders took place. Surprise. We got to get somebody here. Otherwise, we're going to look like a bunch of buffoons. Yeah, you kind of are. And just like that, the search of the Wabash River was never mentioned again. Whatever they were looking for, whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point from Tony. Even Jerry Holman, he said in the Hidden True Crime channel and maybe in Grey Hughes channel that he cannot talk at this point about the Wabash River search. How convenient, how interesting, how fishy. Hello, fishy, by the way.
Whatever they may or may not have found, it was seemingly wiped from the investigation the moment Allen walked into custody. Literally, walked into custody. Kline's name was pushed aside. His connection to Liberty was no longer considered relevant, and the police acted as if the search had never happened at all. Nothing to see here. If Kline was never a suspect, then what was this search about? If he was a suspect, why was he allowed to fade into the background the moment police found someone else to charge? The fact that this search even happened proves one thing. Law enforcement was still unsure about the case, even 5 years later.
No, that's not the point. You are missing the point. You are missing the point and you are not providing the right information. You know very well, because you know the case, that the search of the river was a consequence of the confession of Kegan Kline.
And the fact that they buried it just as quickly proves something else. They didn't want the public to know just what the public, to know just how much they had second-guessed themselves.
And remember, it was $1 million and 6 weeks. 6 weeks of searching downriver. So they were not buying lies from Kegan Kline. They knew that Kegan Kline was providing some solid information.
That's a bad look. Even though it's taken all these years and we've really kind of have a lot of suspects here that seem to be possibly involved, maybe even together. But again, nothing to see here. The Wabash River search should have led to more questions, more answers, and more investigations. Instead,
Yeah, and the questions are easy to answer. Easy to answer. And I know that no one is buying the whole deal or negotiation hypothesis, but to me, it's clear as crystal that there was a negotiation. It's obvious, it's evident.
Led to Richard Allen's arrest.
Between law enforcement and Kegan Kline.
And Kegan Kline was quietly erased from the story. By the time Richard Allen's trial began in October of 24, the narrative of the Delphi murders had been set in stone. The prosecution walked into the courtroom ready to close the case, painting Allen as the man responsible for the deaths of Abby Williams and Liberty German. They had their timeline. They had their evidence. They had a jury that had been primed to believe that they had the right guy. And yet there was one name missing from the prosecution's case. That name would be Kegan Kline, the man who had been directly communicating with Liberty German before her death, the man whose chat logs suggested a possible meeting with her, the man who had been running a massive online exploitation scheme preying on underage girls, including Liberty, through a fake persona. The jury didn't hear a word of that. Nada. It's like it never even happened.
Why not?
Where we watch.
Shit. I moved the video here. But why did the jury they didn't they didn't hear anything about it. There's a reason for that, and the defense was part of that reason. They didn't try hard to use the Kegan Kline angle as part of the strategy. So when they tried to do something, it was really too late. And when they had the opportunity to bring Kegan Kline as one of the witnesses, they didn't use that option. I don't understand why. Or actually, you know that I understand why, but it is what it is.
It makes sense in Delphi, I guess. Alan's defense team saw the problem here. They saw the gaps. They saw the ignored evidence. They saw how law enforcement had spent years chasing the wrong people while sitting on real digital proof that Liberty had been talking to a predator before she died. And they made a move that should have changed everything. They called Kegan Kline as a witness. At first, it seemed like the trial was about to take a major turn. Kline, who had spent years evading real scrutiny in this case, was finally going to be able to finally going to be forced to speak under oath. Finally going to be confronted with his shifting stories, his digital footprint, and his role in Liberty's final hours. The court even ordered him to be transported from prison to testify. But then
what? That's the point. Then what? Yeah, come on.
as everything goes in Delphi.
No, answer the question. You didn't do it. Come on. We were not born yesterday. They had the opportunity to use Kegan Kline as part of the process. He was a witness. The defense, they didn't use that element, that option. So you were just going like the sharks, you know the sharks, they go this way and then they change their direction. You just did that, Tony. That was not transparent. Come on. Bad move.
Nothing happened. Kline was on the witness list, but he never took the stand. No testimony, no cross-examination, no moment of reckoning.
Why not? That's the point.
Just not like he's even part of this. And no one ever explained why.
In the defense, they had the opportunity to do it. That's the whole point.
There's a few possibilities, none of them good. First, the judge may have placed restrictions on what Kline could say.
No.
The defense wanted to use him to question the integrity of the police investigation, but the court limited how much of that could be brought up, then calling him might have been pointless. And if you know anything about Judge Gall, she doesn't like any fingers pointed in a direction that she doesn't think that they should be going. Really impartial like that. The second, the prosecution may have cut a deal with Kline to keep him quiet. If there was.
The magic words. Negotiation. Deal. So I was not that lost, right? Really? I was the poor guy. I was the one that people were making jokes about me because I was talking about the negotiations, about deals. And now you're talking about that option, about that possibility. Come on, guys. Seriously. That makes sense. It's obvious. Since the beginning, it's an obvious connection. Come on.
Any risk that he would say something that could shift suspicion back onto himself, or worse, reveal how badly law enforcement handled their investigation, they may have found a way to ensure he never spoke in front of a jury.
Of course. That's the whole point. The magic word. Come on. Negotiation, deal. It's something just logic. Makes sense. It's logic. Come on. Thank you, Tony. Finally.
Third,
you said something logic, let's say. No, sorry for that, but I'm just venting my frustration about this.
Defense may have realized Kline was too unpredictable to be useful. He'd already proven in multiple interrogations that he could dodge questions with ease, that he could twist the truth just enough to cast doubt without actually incriminating
Yeah, he can twist the truth, but he cannot cheat polygraph.
himself. And if the defense believed putting him on the stand would cause more confusion than clarity, then they may have decided it wasn't
Really, really, come on. You know that. We are not going to buy that at all.
worth the risk. But no matter the reason, the outcome was the same. The jury never got to hear from the one man who was actively in contact with Liberty German before she was murdered. Instead, they were told to focus
Because of the defense. That's the point. Not because of the prosecution, not because of the judge, not because of Richard Allen, not because of the pro-Allen, not because of the anti-Allen, because of the defense. That's the freaking whole point here.
on Richard Allen. And when the verdict finally came down, it was Allen, not Kline, who was convicted of the Delphi murders.
Because the freaking defense, they didn't call Kegan Kline to testify during the process as they should have been. You know, I know this is not a popular opinion, but it's just logic. If I'm the attorney of Richard Allen, I'm gonna call Richard Allen. It's gonna create a reasonable doubt in the minds of the jurors. Come on. I know it's not popular and you disagree with me, but it makes me mad, for real. It makes me mad.
And just like that, Kline once again slipped out of the spotlight. Once again, he avoided the scrutiny he should have faced from the very beginning. And once again, law enforcement got to pretend that his role in the case didn't matter. But it does, because no matter how many times they try to erase his name from the story, Kegan Kline remains the biggest unanswered question in the Delphi murders. Kegan Kline has never been charged in the Delphi murders, nor for conspiracy, not for accessory, not for obstruction, not for anything. Despite the mountain of digital evidence linking him to Liberty German, despite chat logs suggesting of a planned meeting, despite his own admission that he was behind the Anthony Shots profile, he has never once been officially accused of playing a role in the murders.
You can thank the defense for that, because they had the opportunity to bring those elements to the process. If they would how can we say? I lost that word in English, but they were able to use those options during the trial. Kegan Kline was part of the list of the witnesses. They didn't use it because we know why.
Instead, Richard Allen, a man with no known digital connection to Liberty or Abby, was convicted and sent to prison for the crime for the rest of his life. And if that doesn't sit right with you, it shouldn't. Because when you compare the case built against both men, it's Kline, not Allen, who had the stronger circumstantial evidence against him. From the very beginning, law enforcement had concrete proof that Kline had been in contact with Liberty. He wasn't a vague suspect with no ties to victims. He wasn't a name pulled off of a police tip line. He was actively messaging one of the girls before she was murdered. There were no text messages.
It's too late. Maybe it's not too late for the appealing process, but it's too late. We knew all of this before the process, and Kegan was one of the witnesses. And you are now doing your hard appeal? Come on.
No social media conversations, no digital evidence at all linking Richard Allen to Liberty German. There were chat logs, metadata, and documented pattern of predatory behavior connecting Kegan Kline to Liberty German, though. Yet Allen was charged, Kline wasn't. So how does that happen? How does a case like this
You know how that happened. You know how. You know why. And the defense was part of that. situation.
It built around a man who wasn't talking to the victims, while a man who was talking to the victims is left completely out of the equation. It's simple. Law enforcement needed an easy conviction. They needed to find a suspect that they could put in front of a jury, someone whose name wasn't tangled up in years of police failures and ignored evidence, someone who wouldn't bring attention to the mistakes they made in the early years of the investigation.
Yeah, but at the same time, the defense, they had the opportunity to bring Kegan to do the counterpoint of the prosecution narrative, but they didn't do it. They didn't do it.
Kegan Kline, too complicated. And it makes us look really, really dumb.
It's not.
His involvement raised too many questions as president in the case.
Of course, and it is not too complicated at all. Actually, it's the most simple explanation. It's Occam razor.
Would have forced police to explain why they ignored the chat logs for years. It would have forced them to admit that they had failed. One of the biggest leads in examining the biggest lead in the case in 2017 and did nothing with it. Said they built a case around Richard Allen. And the biggest sign that they knew their case was wrong, the Wabash River search. Because if law enforcement was so certain that Allen was their guy, why just weeks before his arrest were they still digging near Kegan Kline's home for possible murder evidence?
Because the Wabash River was the link between the Kegan Kline's confession and the Richard Allen's arrest. Come on, guys. I know there's a lot of passion here, but some dots are easy to connect. It's just very easy to connect. And I know that the know-it-all from the prosecution side, they want to have Richard Allen as the only actor here. And we know, and I know that some of you guys, you are fully pro-Allen, but to me, the connection is clear. It's just clear. It's just my opinion. Sorry, I have to be honest about it.
If the case against Allen was airtight, why did they suddenly need to search a river 5 years after the fact looking for something they wouldn't even disclose to the public? The answer's obvious. They had doubts.
And I understand your ideas, your hypotheses, your opinions. I understand that. I know that the investigation was just crap. The investigation was trash, that we cannot trust the outcome of this investigation. But what bothers me a lot in this case is that the most obvious, the most evident suspect here in this case, Kegan Kline, he was not part of the process. And the defense, they had the opportunity to bring Kegan Kline as one of the witnesses. And that would answer a lot of questions we have today.
They had many doubts. And instead of following those doubts, instead of stepping back and reconsidering the path they were on, what did they do? They charged Allen anyway, because that was the easier thing to do, because that gave them an answer, whether it was right or not. And because charging Kegan Kline would have meant admitting that they had let him kind of away with this for years. So here we are, one man convicted, one man forgotten, and a case that still doesn't feel solved. Richard Allen has been convicted, the case, at least in the eyes of law enforcement. But is it really? Because as it stands right now, as it stands at this moment, Kegan Kline is still sitting in prison, not for the Delphi murders, not for anything related to Liberty German, but for child exploitation charges completely unrelated to this case. And if the prison food doesn't kill him first, he will get out. And that should bother everyone. Kegan Kline wasn't some random figure in this investigation. He wasn't the man police discovered years later through new forensic evidence. He was there from the very beginning. His fake persona luring in underage girls, his digital footprint showing direct communication with Liberty. His name should have never left the list of prime suspects. But instead of treating him like the obvious lead he was, police chose to ignore, delay, and ultimately push him out of the picture altogether. He still denies any involvement to this day. He's never been charged with anything connected to the murders, never been forced to answer why his fake account was still active the day Liberty.
And we can blame law enforcement if we want, because there was a negotiation, a deal there, obviously. But we can blame as well the defense, obviously.
He vanished. Or he was, but he doesn't remember. Or he doesn't know. Or I don't think so. Or that's a lie. Those are his answers. And they were just accepted. Never been held accountable for his role leading up to this and leading her into an online trap, one that may have ultimately led to murder. But by who? Maybe that's one of the biggest questions still to this day and one of the biggest failures of all of this, because here's what we still don't know. Why did police, or what did police find in the Wabash River, and why did they go there when they spent weeks searching near Kline's home in 2022?
We know that. It's easy to extrapolate the answer for real.
Why was Kline ordered to be transported to testify at Richard Allen's trial only to never take the stand? Will he ever be charged for involvement with Liberty German?
No.
Have to walk back Richard Allen's conviction before that. Did law enforcement let the real killer walk free in favor of an easier target?
In the defense, they help, of course.
I am not saying Kegan Kline is the killer. I'm saying he certainly has more information.
And he is the mastermind. 100%.
They would say there's no coincidences.
No.
Well, this isn't.
That I agree. No. One coincidence, two coincidences, three coincidences, 5 coincidences. Okay. But 200 coincidences? No. He was involved. And again, in my opinion, the mastermind of the crime.
A coincidence. This is just blaringly obvious evidence directly in front of you.
This is one of the statements from Tony that we are aligned, finally.
There's no scenario where Kegan Kline should have been ignored as completely as he was. The evidence against him was right there from the beginning, and yet police chose a different path, one that conveniently kept the focus away from their biggest investigative mistake. And until those questions are answered, this case will never be truly solved.
I agree. It's never going to be solved. We are not going to have full justice. Let's see.
Because one thing remains abundantly clear. The Delphi police have never explained why they ignored the strongest lead they ever had.
And the defense, they didn't help to answer that question.
And that's just one piece of this story. And believe it or not a very big piece, but a very key piece if you're trying to really understand the whole thing and try to find that real piece of evidence that does connect someone to this in a real tangible way. This is a pretty strong one in terms of digital footprint. There's a lot in this case. You can find it all over our channel. Be sure to press subscribe wherever you're watching us or listening to us right now so you don't miss any of our continuing coverage on this case. It is not going to go away. I'm Tony Bruschi. Thank you for.
So that was Tony Brodsky. I'm not a fan of Tony. I'm not a hater, but I found relevant his streaming today, and again, it's just insane that we are trying to reinforce today the Kline's angle. We the defense, they didn't use that option during the process. They had the opportunity, the option to do it. They didn't do it anyways. So I'm trying to catch a little bit with the chat here. Try Junkie. I bet they would have arrested Kegan if Richard Allen was not arrested. Kegan said that Richard Allen was the third guy, but that doesn't make sense. Why do you think that doesn't make sense? I think there's a potential connection. The fact that Kegan Kline confessed and then Richard Allen was arrested, to me, it's not just another coincidence. To me, there's a potential connection there. Digital. Just trying to look for the comments here, guys. Where can I hear Kegan Kline's confession? We don't have that confession. We have the information from law enforcement that Kegan Kline confessed. We know that the murder sheet, they did a whole episode about the confession of Kegan Kline at the Grissom Air Force Base. We know the whole information about the red jeep, the cemetery, the fact that his father or someone that was in the car with Kegan Kline went to commit the crime with another guy who supposedly is Richard Allen, and then he came back full of blood, and he said that they had some fun after committing the crime. So that information is public, is available. So we know that Kegan Kline confessed at the Grissom Air Force Base. And after that confession, we have the search of the Wabash River, and after the search, we have the arrest of Richard Allen. Let me go with the defense was not allowed to mention Kline during the trial. No, they had Kegan Kline as one of the witnesses. And even Tony, he said that. And we know that. It was part of the witnesses. They didn't use that option. They could use it. So I don't understand. Annalise says here, she's still on the fence about guilt or innocence, but I had an early impression. If Richard Allen was involved, he may have thought he was helping a friend play a prank, sending the girls downhill. Yeah, I agree with you. That's totally possible. When I say that he was part or that he was involved, I'm not saying that he was the killer. He was part of something. Maybe your hypothesis, your theory is correct. He didn't know the whole plot, let's say, and he accepted to be part of something for some money, just to maybe to pay a favor. I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. Let me go with the comments here, guys. Mar, $1 million worth of them. Annalise, at this point, I don't believe the 43-second video shows an abduction, since a girl says, go down here before the man The man said the word. This is something that is hard to agree, because everybody's hearing a different wording, a different sentence. You understand, you can hear that Libby saying, go down here, go down this path, or something like that. Other people are hearing that be a gun. Everybody's hearing or understanding something different. We know that the video was manipulated, and this is not a conspiracy theory. We know that there was some type of interpolation. We know that the audio was also manipulated. So the outcome or the result of that video, that audio, is not representative of the actual words that the bridge guy was saying, the actual words that the girls were saying. At this point, I don't understand what was the process of that manipulation. We hear about interpolation, about extrapolation, that they had some still images or something like that, and they fill the gaps with some kind of software. To me, this is a black hole. So I don't know. I'm not an expert of interpolations, manipulations. So, anyways, I don't know how representative of the reality is the outcome, the audio, the video. It's just hard to say. So you analyze it, you hear go down here, but the rest of the people are hearing something different. So I don't know. Let me go with the comments here, guys. Sorry. Cryptex knows why. What do you mean? What are you talking about? You're funny, guys. Does he have proof of a negotiation? Of course, we don't have proof. We are formulating hypotheses. We are formulating theories based on the limited information we have. And we try to make sense of the whole information. And that's what makes sense to me. And this guy, which is a pro-Allen, for sure, a pro-Allen guy, Tony, he came to the same type of conclusion. So I'm not that lost. I'm not that in the moon, you know what I mean? Let me go here. Iwata, you and Sleuth Intuition have always believed Kline was involved. Yeah, I agree. Lily, I never make jokes about your intelligence. I'm hitting understanding this train of thought. Ooh, I don't know if you're talking about me, Lily, but let me know what do you want to understand, and we can discuss about it. To be fair, deception is kind of Kegan Kline's baseline. Yeah, but we are not law enforcement. We are not polygraphs. So, of course, we know that Kegan Kline is a liar. But law enforcement, they have the tools to make the difference when he's making or when he's telling a lie and when he's telling the truth. J. Ray. Sorry. Oh, great. Wait, Cryptex, what are we blaming the defense for now? What are we blaming the defense for now? Me, I'm blaming the defense for not bringing Kegan Kline into the process. This is my opinion. They had the opportunity. They have the option to bring Kegan Kline as one of the witnesses, they didn't do it. They didn't use that option. They were full Odinist. They ignored the Kegan Kline's angle. And in my opinion, it's because there's a potential connection between Allen and Kline. And Hiawatha, Cryptex, how could the defense call Kline to testify when he was on the list of people not allowed to be spoken about? He was in the list of witnesses. He was allowed to be a witness in the process as Chadwell, as Ricky Davis, and they didn't use that option. And the whole Frank memorandum was about the Odinists. They didn't talk about the clients at all. They didn't talk about Ron Logan. So interesting. Annalisette, if the defense wanted to open the Kegan Kline Pandora box, they could fought hard to include him. Instead, they went for Odinist. Maybe everyone was busy protecting the guild. Awesome comment, Annalisette. Bright comment. That's my point. You just said my point, my thoughts. Annalisette, statement analyst Sergio Dinaro makes a pretty good case that Kelsey first believed the girls met someone at the trials and perhaps went away with him. Yeah, this is a very interesting hypothesis for sure. What if Kegan Kline client list include teachers? That's not very important, but politicians, judges, yeah. Of course, in that Dropbox, they were powerful people, 100%. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same trial junkie. Elvis confessed. Kegan Kline confessed. Richard Allen confessed. I agree with you. Nexus. Just let me just try to catch with the chat here, guys. What happened at the marathon? This is a very good question. There are a couple of hypotheses, a couple of ideas about it. One is that by incompetence, the FBI, they destroyed by accident the marathon video, the marathon gas station video. I think it was Simdal the other time here in the chat that he made a good comment that maybe if actually there was a negotiation between the clients and the law enforcement, that's why that video was kaput, disappeared. And that makes sense to me. That is in regards of the video. But what happened there? I think that maybe the clients were at the parking lot, or maybe they were inside the marathon gas station, and that was like a solid proof to demonstrate that the clients were actually in Delphi at the time of the murders. But I don't know. We don't have that video material again today. Yeah, I want to know that answer as well. Lily, Cryptex, I don't understand how we can blame the defense when the prosecution didn't allow the third part Kline in. Do you think Kline and Richard Allen are involved? Yes, and I'm saying that since the execution of the Wabash River search, or actually since the arrest of Richard Allen. I made that connection right away in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, but yes, that's what I think. I have to be honest, that's what I think. But regarding your question, how can we blame the defense? I blame the defense because Kegan was one of the witnesses. They had the option to bring Kegan as part of the witnesses during the process, and they didn't use that option. Yeah, I agree with you. There's something incriminating in the Marathon gas station camera for sure. That's crystal clear. And I said, I think the defense planned a simple, quick win. In my opinion, they would gotten that if Richard Allen had been tortured into confessing. Yeah, they used the wrong strategy, or the strategy that was convenient for Richard Allen in the case he was actually connected to Richard Allen, to Kegan Kline. Yeah, I understand your point, J. Ray. Is not the defense to solve the crime, but when you think about, let's say, Karen Reed, she's free today, right? And she went to the media to talk, so that gives some kind of trust, you know, when you go and you try to be transparent when you talk about what happened, even if maybe that's not going to be in favor of your strategy. That's, I don't know, that gives like a sense of this girl is maybe telling the truth. He's going out telling her story, but we don't know anything about Richard Allen because he didn't say a word, you know. So it's a sign of not being transparent, in my opinion. And maybe he's not involved. Maybe he's not part of this. I'm just speculating. But if I'm in that situation, I'm gonna talk day by day. You know, I'm not part of this. I'm innocent. I'm transparent. What happened that day is that I was at work. Then I went to the trail for 1 hour. Then I came back to my house. I talked to my wife. I slept, something like that. But he's not saying anything, and maybe it's not his fault. Maybe it's the defense responsibility. Maybe they instructed Richard Allen to remain silent. But to me, this is a stupid strategy. It's just stupid. When you go out and you talk, you create that sense of trust. You know what I mean? It's like in the Jack and Lily Sullivan's case of Nova Scotia. We have the stepdad of the girls that are missing, Daniel Martel. He's the only one going day by day online, showing his face, presenting his I don't know, statements, let's say. It creates some type of trust. You know what I mean? But in the case of Richard Allen, he was just silent. I don't understand. And maybe it's not his fault again. I think he didn't have the best representation. At the beginning, I was thinking, oh, these attorneys, these lawyers are awesome. But now, I don't think it was the best strategy. Anyways, let me go to the chat again, guys. Yes, Lily. It's not a breaking news. If you follow my channel, this is what I think. Simdal. The transcript hint at two people, different communication styles. It was Kline's father, in my opinion. Yeah. Or someone close to Kegan. Yeah. But he's another poor guy today. But yeah. Shay Watson. Sadly, Cryptex, I think you are 100% about what? I'm a little bit late in the chat, Shay, but anyways, thank you for the support, let's say. Anna. Kegan Kline said in an interrogation that police couldn't prove any of his information. Yeah, I remember that. In my opinion, with judges, politicians, and community leaders were found as clients of the Anthony Shots investigators from the opposite direction. Yeah, excellent comment. Simdal, I find Tony had to shut. Oh, come on, Simdal. You're mean, man. Come on. This is not nice. J. Ray. Simdal, you're bad, man. I don't think they can even prove the conversation between Anthony Shots and Kelsey Libby. I think that just came from Kelsey telling the cops. I think the message is available. I don't think it's something that they couldn't prove. Trial Junkie. I cannot connect Richard Allen to Kegan. They are way too different. But you don't have to have a personal relationship. It can be just something online. And Kegan, he was the king of deception online. So he can, you know how many different accounts Kegan had? One account to cheat kids or girls, and multiple accounts just to connect with guys, to be part of that ring. You don't have to have a personal relation with Kegan Kline. It's just an online connection. You know what I mean? Kegan is able to act as a kid. Kegan is able to act as a woman. Kegan is able to act as a girl online. Kegan is able to act as his father online. He's bright. Guys, you have the idea of Kegan being stupid. And again, we are underestimating Kegan Kline, 100%. And I said, in my opinion, Kegan Kline clients have been protected, of course. Also, in my opinion, other kids were getting paid by Anthony Shots to introduce friends and family. Yeah, I agree. 100%, Anna. And one of the points that reinforces your opinion here is that that sentence stuck in my mind, the transcript sentence from law enforcement when they were talking to Kegan. We have the money, we have the Anthony Shots money account going to Libby's. And remember again that we have the other witnesses, the other girl, that he was confirming that type of information. He was receiving money from the Anthony Shots account to buy Victoria's Secret stuff. And yeah, there was a whole transactional business here, for sure. He was paying the girls. This guy is bright. He's not the stupid, fat guy behind the cell phone or behind the computer. He constructed a whole empire, and we are just trying to to close our eyes about it. Digital. I think Kegan Kline thought he was a big fish. Turned out he was swimming with sharks. I think he was the one directing the sharks, you know. He was the one coordinating the activities of those sharks. He was the one providing the food for the sharks. You know what I mean? I love how you said cemetery. How I am saying cemetery. Help me with that. Okay, there's a transcript of a police interview with Kegan Kline. Allegedly, he told the other jail inmates about his dad, the Rajib. No, it was not with the other inmates. That was a meeting with Nick McClelland at the Grissom Air Force Base. It has nothing to do with other inmates in jail. Anna, this is not about that. It was Kegan Kline at the Grissom Air Force Base talking face to face to Nick McClelland. That was the confession. So just to be clear, we know that. What was Kegan Kline going to Richard Allen was not involved? I don't understand your question. Was Kegan going to Richard Allen? I don't understand. Was Richard in a motorcycle gang? I'm not sure about that. There are some speculation about it, but I'm not sure. If Kegan Kline list was protected, I am sure his underage victims were even more protected. In the end, any cover-ups could be passed off as protecting juveniles. Good point. Sorry, I missed something here. That's it. Okay, I know this is not a popular opinion to have. Sorry, that's just the conclusion. I come to, okay. Monday, thank you for the heart. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you, Trial Junkie. What are we watching there? What is the evidence? There was a guy behind the girls, but we don't know anymore. I agree with you. I agree. A little bit late. I'm gonna skip a couple of comments here, guys. I'm gonna scroll. Sorry for that. Sorry if I miss one of your comments. It's just okay, Anna. How convenient if the state can protect underage victims of Kegan Kline while also protecting important people on his client list. Yeah, you got the point. I agree with you. Shay, and that ring was international, as this one most likely is. Why haven't we heard any more about that anyway? Yeah, that was my point. Exactly. Powerful people being protected. J. Ray, see, this is the path that we go down. I hear something totally different, but I know that my Latino ear is not the best source of hearing for that. I totally think BGD videos, audio and video were manipulated. It's not a conspiracy theory. It comes from law enforcement. There was an interpolation process, which I really don't understand. I looked in the internet, but something that some information in the video is not clear, so they try to fill the gaps with some type of software. So it's just weird. I'm not an expert. Maybe for an expert is something clear and transparent, but for me is if they are filling gaps using two different images to create another image, and maybe that image that was created is the one that was shown or presented as the material to identify potentially the bridge guy. So again, it's weird, it's fishy. We are not experts about it. I don't think the defense they challenged that information properly. If I'm an attorney of the defense, I'm gonna put another expert right behind me. Hey, explain that to me properly because I don't understand. What does it mean that interpolation process? What do you mean that you are filling the gaps between two images? Is that some type of software that is validated? So what's the level of trust we can have based on the outcome of that video, that audio? Because we know that they were saying that according to Liggett, he heard, and I heard the same, that be a gun, but where does it come, that sentence, that audio? What was the process to filter the audio from the raw material to the extrapolated or interpolated result? So I think that the defense, they didn't do a good job here, guys. It's just my opinion. There were a lot of elements easy to challenge, and they didn't do it. But anyways. Okay, Cryptex, you act like speaking freely and openly about the truth worked out well for Richard Allen before his arrest. I don't understand your comment. I don't understand your comment. Let me go here. Yeah, it's just a theory, of course, speculation. And a good point. I think Kegan Kline's cousin, Travis Drexler, needs a closer look. 100%. Was he using Kegan Kline's phone all day when the crime happened? That's my theory as well. I think that Travis Drexler is the alibi of Kegan Kline. You are 100% right about it, in my opinion. It makes sense. It makes sense. He was the one covering for Kegan as the one using the cell phone the day of the murders. I think it makes sense based on the information we know. I don't understand your question, Jerry. Maybe if you can elaborate your question more clear for me, because I don't understand. Okay, Jerry. He can be bright and still be a stupid fat guy with a phone. How can you be bright and stupid at the same time? You're bright or you're stupid. But it's hard to reconcile both adjectives, let's say, at the same time. Now, if you think that a killer by default is stupid, I agree with you. But a killer, he can be bright at the same time. So anyways, it becomes like a philosophical discussion. So who killed the girls? That's the $1 million question, Trial Junkie. That's the $1 million question. We don't know. Who knows? Who knows? That's the. Thank you for that, Trial Junkie. Thank you for the question. Great question. Bright question. Who killed the girls? We cannot say that it was Richard Allen. We don't know that. We don't know it. We don't know anything after the bridge. What happened after the bridge is a mystery. So people saying that Richard Allen was the killer, they're lost. They don't know that. I cannot say that it was Kegan. I cannot say that it was Tony. I can say that most likely, or in my opinion, it could be a combination of, I don't know, Tony working with Richard Allen. But again, it's just speculation. No one knows the answer. Who knows? No one. There's no proof at all. And in this case, there was a lot of reasonable doubt. One thing is what I think. Another different thing is what it was proven by the state. They didn't prove the case. To me, it's clear that there were multiple actors. It's clear that the nature of the crime indicates that there were more than one people, two different type of weapons, lack of defensive injuries, two girls being, I'm gonna use this word, which is heavy, I know, but they were disposed in different ways. Libby was naked. Abby was dressed with the clothes of Libby. There's a lot of indication that there was more than one person involved here. And Trial Junkie, again, thank you for the question. We don't know. We just don't know. Who knows? We don't know because the investigation was crap. The investigation was trash. So stupid to say that Richard Allen was the killer and the only one. It's stupid. We can't formulate theories. We can't create a hypothesis. We can't imagine what happened, but we don't know. No one knows. No one. Tom Webster, Fig Solves, Sleuth Intuition, Anthony Green, Anna Lisette, Lily, Mar. We don't know. No one knows. No one. Lily, if there was any sesame on any of Richard Allen devices, the prosecution would release it. I used to be on most of your lives, but I have kept away because there is so much drama in some channels. Yeah, I know, I understand. Yeah, I agree. He doesn't have any history of looking for that type of sesame material online, 100%. Don't blame your Latino ear, Cryptex. Just use your Canadian ear next time. I'm gonna try. Cryptex, the girl saying something like the path doesn't go on, so we have to go down here. Is very clear. It's very clear for you, but it's not very clear for other people like me included. So, and again, the material we receive online, how representative is this material from the original video that was presented or in the courtroom? I don't know. It's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy that was put in the internet. That's what we are hearing. How do we know that we have the original material? Do we know that? I don't know. And even I did an experiment in my channel. I sent the video to multiple people in different countries that they don't know anything about the case. Ireland, Australia, Colombia, Mexico, United States, like 7 or 8 different countries. They don't know anything about the case. I sent the video of Abby and Levy saying that word, the path we go down or that be a gown. and the answers they provided was just insane. No, they were listening, or they were hearing something totally different. We are biased. We have a lot of information about the case, so we adapt that hearing, that audio, to our thoughts. But people that they don't know anything about the case, and Anglophone people, original English speakers, people are for France. I send the audio to people living in France, to French speaker from here from Canada, English speakers from Canada, English speakers from United States, people from Colombia, Chinese people. All of them, they were hearing something totally different. You can do the same experiment, guys. Take the video, send the video to your friends, people that they don't know anything about the case, and you're gonna be surprised about what they can hear. I received crazy answers. So just to say that, anyways, I don't know if you understand my point. Again, you said it's very clear. It's not clear. It's not clear. It's not. Sorry, but it's not. I disagree 100%. Do the experiment yourself, guys. Try to disconnect from the case. Send the video to your friends, to your family, someone who doesn't know anything about the case, and let me know what they are hearing, because their results are going to be really crazy. Yeah, this is a great point, Trial Junkie. He was arrested, Travis Drexler, after the Wabash River. This is a very, very, very suspicious situation. Again, to me, he was the one covering for Kegan Kline about his alibi. Trying to catch with the. So, guys, this live is kind of. I hope you have friends. Come on, J-Ray. You are a very nice person, so for sure you have. So, guys, I think it's enough for today. Thank you so much for the company. Please hit the like, and see you tomorrow. Maybe this weekend is the Independence weekend from Quebec, so maybe I'm gonna go out to do some type of streamings outside. It's gonna be fun. So see you guys. Thank you for showing up today. So stay in touch. See you tomorrow. Hit the like, share the video, become a member. Why not become a member, and subscribe if you're not yet. See you. Thank you, guys.